Asteria. I'm the founder of the Syvita Guild. We're a decentralized, for background, we're a decentralized developer guild. We build some of the largest projects on the stats ecosystem. So, well, all types of projects. So we're talking, I should probably get the keynote up. We're talking anything from meme tokens and NFT games all the way up into like brand new internet protocols and building like a decentralized social engine. And it's everything between that. I shall try and get the screen. Hold on. Sorry. If I go share screen. Right. Sweet. Yeah, that's basically what I've just said. The best way to build, well, in our opinion, the best way to build something in stats, you can bring your own individual team, but the best way to do it will be inside the Syvita DAO. The first thing up, we want to talk about the DAO project, which includes DAO OS and Hub, which is basically an all-encompassing protocol for DAOs or decentralized organizations to exist on stats. So I'll hand over to Drew. Yeah, this is Drew's, but
I know we have ordered speaking, but we work together. I also work with Syvita, so we're on the same team. So as he's saying, we have DAO OS, which is a DAO platform. Do you want to talk about the? Okay, that's great. Thank you. So for those of you that aren't familiar with this concept, a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. And what that means is it's a loose grouping of people that come together and they're self-organized and self-governing. And they typically will use smart contracts to assist in their governance and to essentially gain consensus to make decisions as a group. And this is really, it's really a powerful way of organizing that you could kind of do sort of before the blockchain, but oftentimes it ends up being very hierarchical. Certain people end up, becoming de facto leaders and whatnot. Whereas when you have blockchain, the technology itself allows you to make decisions. And the beauty of this is everyone who participates in the DAO has an equal say. And that means that you can use this to organize all kinds of projects. We're using a DAO to organize Syvita. So, the members all get to decide on the types of projects we run. We're going to get to decide where to place funds when we, as we have them and as that grows. It's great for open source projects. Bitcoin itself has a DAO. It's governed by a DAO. That was probably the first actual DAO that existed. The DAO you might be familiar with was a DAO, and that got hacked. So that wasn't a good example, but that was more of a smart contract issue than anything else. But this can extend way beyond blockchain. In fact, I came to this from, I was a winemaker for a short stint. And what I discovered was that, up until about 5,000 cases, you can make really quality wine. And once you hit that level, it's really hard to maintain quality. And in fact, you'll see like a lot of the bigger wineries, their really good wine is operated within the construct of they just get the best grapes, but they're only making that many cases, but then they have mass volumes of production. The problem is it's very hard in America to make a living as a winery making that few cases because there's so many middlemen along the way and there's so much regulation. So my idea originally for this was, well, what if these winemakers could come together and they could create a methodology to have an e-commerce website where everyone could buy wine from any winery and they could ship them directly. And so you have one website centralized, you cut all the middlemen out, and you can have restaurants log in and get wholesale prices directly. You can have retail people buy things and get it directly. You have a lot of power and a lot of control, and it's all run by them. So it's not some Uber or Airbnb where someone's taking a cut of every transaction. This is all run by the wineries. And the way they could set it up is they could create proposals of what they want to do next. And as a DAO, they can all vote and the group can decide what comes next. So I think there's a lot of things, a lot of power in this type of organization. All right, go ahead, Stu. All right, so currently we're working on essentially the core protocol, the smart contracts, the application itself that would enable anyone to run a DAO. So, you know, you can take this open source project, all the stuff we do at Syvita is open source at current, and anyone could clone that and they can work on it and they can take it and deploy it and they can create their own DAO and use the system. That's the plan. Eventually, we're going to build out the hub, and hub is going to be essentially tools where people can come in and have a hosted DAO. So if you don't have that developer experience, or if you just want a managed service, you'd be able to come to the system and essentially just create your own DAO software, set up how it's going to be governed. Our plan is to make this very modular, so it's flexible, and there can be different smart contracts that handle different things in terms of how you fund it, how you divide up the voting responsibilities and things like that. So the beauty is that this would be a full system, all built around stacks, where any DAO could come and create, no matter how technical or not they are, and then they can self-organize around this software. Next slide, please. So currently we're working on, you know, building, we're working on a proof of concept and the sort of first application for DAO OS. And we'll look at the roadmap here in a second, but the hub is going to have, you know, once we finalize the DAO OS, then we'll look at hub and figure out how exactly we want to enable this all to work through the construct of software as a service platform. So this is the basic roadmap for building out our DAO platform. Currently, and this is funded by STX grant, we're building a proof of concept. We're going to be able to have members where we can invite new members. You'll be able to authenticate using the STX wallet. And then you can choose a name, either pseudonymous or put in your own name. Any member will be able to post a proposal. So a proposal can be something for development. So you could say, I want to, you know, I think we should develop this software piece. It can be a way of dispersing funds. I think we need to, you know, buy this thing or pay for this thing. But typically there's a price associated with it. And very often there will be milestones. So you'll submit your proposal, you'll submit your milestones, and then voting members will be able to stake tokens against it. And when the full amount of tokens that would fund the entire proposal is reached, then it will execute the first milestone, payment will be released, and whoever is running that project would then start to go, and then they would get payments as they move along. And then there will be a whole approval process for that. So that will be the basic setup. And originally, on inception, it's going to use most likely just STX tokens. But in the next piece, we're going to look at adding some more governance features, ways to make decisions beyond just using proposals, things that don't require tokens necessarily, and looking at adding support for additional tokens, whether that's wrapped Bitcoin, Arcadico stablecoin. That's one of the things you might post a proposal that's 1,500 stacks today, but then stacks, doubles or triples in price, but it doesn't adjust for that. Then the next phase after that, we're going to essentially release public betas for all this, finalize the protocol, and also look at generating tokens and whatnot for it. And then finally, we'll get into creating additional plugins for things like reputation and other stuff. And then plugging things into Hub so that non-developers can generate this, or people who just don't want to deal with deploying and managing their own DAO.
All right, so that sums it up for the DAO project.
Thanks, Jerry.
Do you want to take questions now and then answer them, or should we take all the questions?
No, we should. We should take the questions later, so we have time for the speakers. So right now you can proceed for like the second part of the meetup, which is the Sypool, and then afterwards is Paradigma, and then the last 15 minutes will be reserved for Q&A.
Yep.
Okay,
that works.
Sweet. Okay,
perfect.
So Sypool then. Come on, there we go. So yeah, Sypool. Sypool is short for Syvita pool, and it's the first ever stacks mining pool. So the general gist is, or the reasoning behind it is, it's quite, with the mechanism Stacks uses to mine Stacks tokens, because of the randomization, it can have a big initial capital requirement. I think Demon Technologies estimated it to be somewhere around 1 Bitcoin to profitably mine Stacks tokens, but that's not good for decentralization, and we want to get more of the community, even like at very, very low levels, into helping mine Stacks tokens and decentralizing it as much as possible. Sypool is quite unique because the main feature is it verifies Bitcoin transactions on the Bitcoin chain on the Stacks chain while they're completely separate. Well, not completely separate, but you know what I mean. So the general gist of it would be you commit some Bitcoin to the pool using some web user interface. Then in return, you will get 30,000 Sypool tokens to your Stacks address. Basically, these Sypool tokens can be used to redeem your rewards and potentially vote on decisions too. And then you'd wait for your Bitcoin to be used for mining along with everyone else's Bitcoin. And then as the tokens are mined with the Bitcoin, they're sent straight from the miner into the smart contract, where basically it's trustless there. The actual mechanism behind it, there's no, what's it called? There's not any, you don't have to trust us once the Stacks tokens are in a smart contract, because you can go and redeem it, and you can even, if you're technically inclined, you can go and read through the smart contract or get friends that are technically inclined to read through it and verify it. And once you redeem these tokens after a certain amount of time, hopefully you make a profit. Over time, as the pool grows, the more Bitcoin it has, the longer it can sustain mining for. So back to that initial capital requirement is that when you're mining on a per block basis, it's sort of like a lottery. So you might win or you might lose, but people mine STX tokens because the value of the STX tokens they get back is worth more than the Bitcoin they spent to get it. Therefore, they make a profit. But at the lower the amount of Bitcoin, or the lower the amount of blocks you can mine for, it's not so safe as if you have lots of initial capital and you can spread your blocks. And especially when you have a pool with lots of people's Bitcoin, if you lose a block and you don't make a profit, that will be spread across everyone, and it's a lot less likely to actually hurt the pool. Potential returns, I've been asked this quite a lot. Due to the nature of like STX mining, we don't know for sure. But if you look at the data that's just publicly available, you can go look at it. Current miners have made anywhere up to 109% return, although we probably won't see that in practice. How long will it take to get a profit or get something back? Simply, it depends. Because there is a certain limit of Bitcoin that can be spent, or like, think of it buying a lottery ticket. There's only a certain amount of money you can put on a lottery ticket in order to make a profit in the end, because the reward has to be greater than the amount you put in the first place. However, there's not a limit on how much is given to the pool, which means you could see if the pool suddenly gains a load of traction and gets a load more Bitcoin in it, then it might take a little longer to spend the Bitcoin and then get back. So with some quick estimations, current miners are spending about 750,000 Satoshis per block. And with this, we're looking at spending up to over 1 Bitcoin per day on STX mining. We did a quick survey in the STX trading Telegram channel, and we've got a estimated $543,000 initially in the pool. And plugging that in with the current Bitcoin price, we could see, a 14% return in just over a week. But as I've said before, it's only prediction and we just don't know what it could be. Right, what's next? Oh yes, okay, so fees. The pool will take a 5% fees and profits. This is not a 5% fee on everything you get back. Say if you put 1 Bitcoin in and you get 1.5 Bitcoin out, you make a 0.5 Bitcoin profit. Therefore, we take 5% of the profit and you get 1.475 Bitcoin back. And for losses, the pool won't take any fees. For more on Sypool, including a technical overview of how the pool works in more detail at the smart contract level, you can visit the GitHub repository. I'll post the link later on in chat. And also I'll post this also presentation so people can read through and click on the links later. We're aiming for a late July, if not a few weeks later, release for Sypool. Yeah, well, we said we're not going to do questions until the end, so I'll try and answer some in chat if there's any, but we should just hand it off to Paradigma then.
Thank you so much, Asteria. And yeah, so we reserve the Q&A for later. So for now, Philip from Paradigma can move on to his presentation. And then after it, we probably have a lot of time for Q&A. Take it away, Philip.
Oh, thank you. Nice seeing a big group of interested people in developing the STX applications. That's something that has been growing in the past couple of years. So thank you for having this opportunity. So I'm going to share a very humble presentation here that graphic design is not our wonderful capacity. So sorry about, so years ago, we started with Paradigma Crosscheck. That is essentially is a solution for doing business. Okay. So essentially, then there's the many actors that could be participating, especially the big problems that they're having. The globalization has been going slower, and then there's been many problems of how to deal with business at a worldwide level. You see, and especially services are one of the things that have been impacted, but that could be helped with a way to solve this problem with some technology that will make people feel like they are closer than before. So all these problems have been affecting the world. So these many pains also been affected by protectionism, fake news, tax evasion, loss of work and espionage, privacy, high remittance cost, high fund conversion cost, high transaction cost, tampering, reduced efficiency, lack of transparency, inefficient auditability, counterfeiting, false provenance, and false certificates. And then additionally, we add the pandemic that is also affecting all the relation between companies and people. So what we have developed is a solution for solving or trying to help increase and boost business. And so let me see this, why this is bothering me here. Okay. So then we developed Paradigma Crosscheck. Well, actually, it's something that has been evolved, looking for the way that testing it with the market, and then looking for the way to solve the problems that we've been discovered. So essentially, we are trying to solve this problem with business transactions with more trust and less friction. Essentially, that's something that the main purpose of the application. So this DApp is a transparent and dynamic environment to execute agreements and token transfer seamlessly. So as you know, that the STX is offering a full stack development tool that you can that each user acts as a node. So each node, what we have developed is a way to interact with different nodes using this Paradigma Crosscheck network. You see, so then you establish this agreements and tokens transfer between these different nodes that you can see here in this graphic. So essentially, then what we did is that Paradigma Crosscheck helps on payments and teleworking and purchase and sell, traceability and services. All of this could be done, especially at the beginning. It will be the digital workers, that they deliver digital products or digital output, but not so much on the with the physical one, because this is a big difficult thing. So we started with this with the containers, and we made all this IoT device and transfer with satellite and many things. And it was a big mess, but we solved that problem. But it's always so complicated. But then we discovered that it could be used in any kind of business. So essentially, we are creating a Paradigma Crosscheck ecosystems that you have an idea, what is it? We have a financial capital and then token values, and we are building this platform on top of the STX ecosystems. So now I'm going to try to do a small demo. So let's see. Sorry. So that what essentially we have built is the a platform to define your business agreements. Here, for example, here we have the business agreement, and then, for example, we have the example of a graphic design for an app that has been a contract here. So each one of these are the different business agreements. So then you open it and you can create a blank document or upload a document that is based in PDF. So then if it's something that is already written, then you can upload it. So essentially you open this, well, you have chat among the users of this participant of this business agreement. And then here you have the contract that you have agreed, and then you can write it down if you want. And then you can also put additional text or documents or graphics or specifications in a private and secure storage. And all that is stored in the Gaia storage that Stack provides for free now. And then also you can tag it in order to classify that in different ways, you know, and then that stacks. Then you have a payment form that gives you the way to how this work is going to be paid. So then you put the different the amount, and then which currency you're going to use, and then what percentage and the time that you're going to want to get paid, or you pay for this, and then you can add all this payment form in the way. And then of course that is if you agree that, and then who is going to sign this. So then you add the participants. I don't know what's going on here. Participants. No, something as usual. Murphy is around here. That's the problem doing live things, you see. So then you put the participants. Oh, that's something wrong with the participants, and maybe some changes. But essentially, you choose. This is the new issue here. Sorry, but then you choose the participants, and then and you define who is going to pay and who is going to get paid. So then after doing that, then you execute the payments, and with that payment, and then you can, so who is going to get paid, and you send or pay each of the transactions. So essentially it's a way to wrap up all the transactions that you are making typically in a wallet. And this calls a wallet that pops up, and then you make the payment and all the transactions. So that's more or less the demo I wanted to make. So then imagine you're putting different types of business agreement, like financial agreements, or could be just work agreements and financial services, and you can add them on top of this platform that you share. So you share the agreement among the people that are participating in the business. No, so it's not a centralized site that collects all that information. It's decentralized using the Stacks platform. So each one is sharing the agreement, and so you see what the people are contributing in that agreement, and that's a business agreement. And also the payment is done among these participants. Yeah, that was more. I hope I managed to. Well, each agreement is associated with a smart contract. And so then the smart contracts, well, I have, then also you have a smart contract that you can put some rules of compliance, and also you can put IoT associated to the business agreement. But that's very complex part that we already did that and tested and worked fine. But we are starting with the basic stuff, but it's very powerful. You know, the stacks, full stack has a lot of potentiality to build very sophisticated applications. So, and maintaining the, yeah.
Gotcha.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Anytime, man. Our pleasure. We're always happy to have you as always. And I think just to begin, because I feel like we have a lot of questions, because I also pre-collected some of it in the survey, and I would love to bring all the speakers again from this meetup, maybe, you know. So let's start with the first question. I'm gonna start with DAOs because it was the first one to present. So the question is for Drew Faulkman. So the question from the community is how to integrate DAO into different products and manage governance.
That's interesting. So the way it will work, the front end will be in React and some other tools. The back end will be smart contracts primarily. So what that means is all the data is going to be stored in a decentralized fashion, and the front end is React. So you would be able to, you know, you could clone this branch and plug it in and use it however you want. You know, so long as the key features of it are executing the smart contracts as they're supposed to, it would work in any way. And we're hoping to make it modular, so you would also be able to switch out a contract if you wanted to, you know, change something differently, use a different token, and eventually, hopefully, other contributors will add in smart contracts. So there will be, you know, one to manage the treasury with STX, one to manage the treasury with, you know, Wrap Bitcoin, one to manage with the Arcadico, etc.
Also, wait, I'll just throw something in. The actual protocol itself is only a template, and the protocol will be a very bare minimum type of thing. So you can build it out to whatever needs, or business needs, or how your model works. It's just designed to be as modular as possible and basically to be a go-to solution for either your developers or you or your friends just want to make something quickly. It's meant to be a full stack solution to all of them.
Gotcha. And the next question for you guys is, the community is asking, when are you guys launching DAOs? Like, what's the specific timeline for it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we currently have mapped out the architecture and we have the design. We've been approved for milestone 1. The next part is going to be building out the auth piece of it primarily, and the member aspect of it. And then the final milestone will be building the proposal system and voting. So, you know, my guess is we're probably looking about July. It's probably going to be, you know, about 2 to 4 weeks for each of those milestones, 2 remaining. You know, so if all goes well, soon. If, you know, there can always be delays. That's life. But
yeah, of course not. Let us know how we can help as always. Okay, so there's tons of things that I'm gonna ask Asteria, aka Poseidon, for like the Sypool mining. Okay, just to begin with, is, for example, I've been following tons of conversation for quite some time now, and I see a lot of peers when it comes to mining profitability, security, regulation, fees, and the governance token that comes with it. So for Poseidon, I'm just curious on how did you arrive with your tokenomics and fee calculation? Did you actually base it off something else? So for example, in your wiki, you mentioned that 20% of the 5% of the fees will be distributed to the Sypool collateral holders, but I haven't seen any distribution, for example, allocation, maximum supply, meeting schedule, you know, so those kind of like things that comes with a token. I'm just curious, is this still in the works, or are you just probably gonna fork maybe Compound or Aave model? Because usually a lot of projects fork Compound because it's battle tested.
All right. Yeah, that's a good question. In general, the tokenomics of this it's quite simple. It's more a representation of how much Bitcoin you allocated to the pool rather than a asset in itself. It's sort of representing your stake in the pool. So in that respect, it doesn't have a max cap because it just gets minted and burnt as needed as Bitcoin enters the pool and rewards are redeemed. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's no max cap to it. Regarding, wait, did you say about the profitability and the collateral? The collateral, yeah, I should have mentioned that in the presentation. We're going to have some sort of way for people to use a wrapped Bitcoin token on the Stats chain to effectively lock their wrapped Bitcoin in another smart contract, which is connected, will be activated in the original contract when needed, or when it's ready. And 20% of the 5% fee will go directly into that contract. So as people are taking out their stats rewards, because that's what it's designed to do, some of the profit will go to collateral holders who, in the case that Syvita runs off with a load of Bitcoin, which is not going to happen, but just in case there is collateral providers there and they're being paid basically interest for their proportion of collateral to the total amount that's being allocated to the pool. I think that answers your question. Does it?
Yeah. I mean, it just pops out more question, but I could reserve it later. So, okay, probably the next thing that I'm going to ask, because you specifically mentioned that you were going to use Swapper for price discovery for just like STX over Bitcoin, but I don't think we have any oracles working at the moment. And I know you guys are planning to launch in July. Is there something that you guys are going to work with towards, or?
Yes, we're working with Pascal on a separate external Oracle solution where we haven't completely finalized that yet. We may, if Swapper is ready, which it might be, but I don't think it will be though, but if it is ready, we'll pull prices directly from the what's it called, the stats price, the stats Bitcoin price from the Swapper contract. So effectively as an Oracle on the decentralized exchange. If it's not ready, we're most likely put a temporary solution in for where we'll be posting the price from a exchange like Binance or a data source like CoinMarketCap every block to the contract, so it knows what the current price is. We haven't exactly finalized that yet because it's reliant on other people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, another question is about legality, because I saw a community member specifically mention that Sypool doesn't seem to be like fully decentralized, as miner will have control over the funds. And are you guys working on something to make Sypool fully decentralized in the future, or it's always going to be like this?
Of course. This is just a version 1 that we're just trying to get a viable working mining pool out there, because then just proving that it can happen, and then funding Syvita and the other projects, and then making those happen. And then we can also redirect attention back in for V2 of Sypool, where we plan to do a complete revamp and make it more into a protocol than a custodial service, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And completely revamp it with multiple miners.
Yeah, okay. And the last question on my end goes to mining profitability. So for example, if there's like a price crash and then mining becomes more unprofitable, right? How does the pool handle situation, or will you guys continue to mine unprofitably, or it just stops? Do you have something like sort of contingency plan for it, or?
Most likely we're still discussing this, but because of the nature of how the pool works, where people have allocated their Bitcoin and they therefore have Sypool tokens, we can do some sort of vote whether to stop mining and then to start mining, 2 votes to stop and then start mining again. And we give it, I don't know, like maybe a week in period, and everyone would effectively vote with the amount of tokens they put in on the 2 outcomes. So either you stop or we continue mining, which is one of the another benefits of having a representative token instead of, well, using a centralized database, because everyone can check.
Okay, I have a few more follow-up questions, but I will give the floor to the community members because they have a lot of questions as well. I would love to bring Tycho in the call. Tycho, you have a specific question for Asteria. Would you like to ask it?
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks very much for passing over the floor. Now, I was just wondering about, because there was this sort of discussion going on the GitHub issue about kind of the trust model and like how users can keep control of their Bitcoin that they delegate for mining in the sort of context of proof of transfer. So maybe you just answered that and I missed it, but in case not, feel free to go for it.
The trust model is we're going to, well, from the protocol level of how POX works, a mining pool has to mine, well, in this case, in V1, the mining pool has to only mine from 1 Bitcoin address, right? Because that's a limitation of the actual protocol itself. We cannot change that. Unlike stacking, where there's a actual mechanism in the protocol for delegating stats tokens, there is nothing on the Bitcoin network that would allow us to do a delegation, because not only that, but stacking, you get interest, right? Stacking, you get, you just lock your tokens, they stay there, they don't move anywhere, which is how they can be delegated. And then you get interest from miners. Mining, however, is not it's a destructive process. In order to have the chance at making a profit, it has to give up the Bitcoin, as basically sacrificing the Bitcoin in order for the chance to mine the block. And in order to sacrifice the Bitcoin, you have to transfer the Bitcoin. That's the sacrifice of the sacrifice of the Bitcoin. And you cannot decentralize something, well, if we want to scale this, like to potentially thousands or tens of thousands of people using this service, having a multi-sig signature with tens of thousands of people, it's just 1, not viable, and 2, what if it doesn't get enough signatures, but people want their money out, right? Some people want their money out, but the rest of the majority basically says, no, you can't have your money, even though it's rightfully their money, even though the majority has voted no, because it's not the majority's vote, because they didn't allocate it in the first place, if that makes sense. So security-wise, we have thought about this. The wallet will be a 1 of 5 multi-sig wallet, a 1 of 5 multi-sig Bitcoin wallet, and keys will be basically, it will be, the owners of the keys will be very reputable members of the stats ecosystem. Like, for example, we might give one to Munib, we might give one to the Stats Foundation to manage, maybe Demon Technologies too, very high up reputable sources. And you can go onto the Bitcoin network if the funds go missing and you can cryptographically prove who decided to transfer the Bitcoin and where it's going to. So it's very open. You can go verify it. There is some risk, but we're taking basically every step that we can to reduce the risk. And, well, we're not going to do anything at all, but there's always risks of hacking and stuff like this. So security is one of our basically top concerns with the pool, like how we're designing it from the ground up for this. Sorry, that was quite a long answer.
No, it was a good answer. Yeah, that suffice your question, Tycho.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's found an interesting strategy, and it's really a work in progress as well. So, yeah, interesting to hear the sort of thinking process there.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, guys, now is the time to ask the speakers some questions. If you have specific questions about Paradigma, DAO OS, and Sypool, feel free to just jump in the chat. If not, I could still ask more questions to Sypool. Yeah, there's tons of builders in the call as well. I think if you guys have some critical questions about the 3 presenters today, go for it. Go for it, Philip.
Well, it's something that I missed, you know, that we, the way that we think that we can bootstrap the finance of our application, it will be, we're using the proof of HODL, or the freehold model. So essentially the users will need a minimum of our tokens, our own tokens. So we have to invest in our token, a very small amount. And then, so then if they don't have the amount right away in their balance, it will be deducted from the transaction, from the transfer. And then the person that was receiving the funds will get the tokens. So that the idea is that the receiver will get the, will need to, in order to receive, they need a minimum of tokens in order to really use the application. So that's one new thing that we are trying to accomplish. So it's not for free. It has a kind of investment. So you have to hold the token in order to use the application.
Gotcha. Any more questions, guys, that you would love to ask maybe Philip about like the proof of work concept for Paradigma? If not, I have a question for Asteria. I'm just curious, why didn't you put a cap to the tokens? Because usually cryptocurrencies have all like, you know, total maximum supply because we're made for deflation. Is it a specific design choice, or, you know, like...
Yeah, it's a specific design choice in the way what the tokens actually are. The tokens are meant to, when they're created, they're meant to have a 1-to-1 ratio per Satoshi that has been allocated into the pool. This is where the cross-chain verification comes in, where you can basically put a Bitcoin transaction into the smart contract. It can work out whether it actually happened or not, and how much you put into the pool, and whether you put it into the pool or another address, etc. And it will give you that amount of stats tokens, but sorry, Sypool tokens, don't want to get those confused, Sypool tokens back. And the idea is once your Bitcoin has been used for mining, it will hopefully be worth more than 1 Satoshi, maybe like 1.14 Satoshi, for example, which would then make you a profit when you redeem them.
Wait, so Asteria, quick question. So are you going to be distributing stacks, like the mine stacks, to participants of the Sypool, or will you be sending Bitcoin? Okay, so it'll be mine stacks. Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to send Bitcoin. I mean, we could send Bitcoin, but the way stats mining works is you get stats tokens back, right? And it just makes more sense for us to when we mine with the Bitcoin, directly send the stats rewards, the block rewards, straight back into the smart contract. Therefore, everyone knows where they are, everyone can see where they are, and a smart contract is controlling them. Once, as I said, even though when the Bitcoin is being used to mine or is in queue to be mined with, it would be under Syvitas and the key holders trusts. Once it has been mined and the stats rewards are sent to the smart contract, then it becomes trustless, because you can read through the code and only the code has control of how the rewards are distributed afterwards.
Sure. So I guess another question I have is, would there be any distinction between Like if I put, 200,000 Satoshis into the pool and, 10 other people put 200,000 Satoshis into the pool, whenever my specific 200,000 Satoshis are used, or like, do you keep track of that? Like, will they be distributed? Will the rewards be distributed pro rata to the participants of Sypool, depending upon how many Sypool tokens they have? And then how quickly will that take place after those specific stacks are mined?
Yes, so it will be distributed in proportion to how much you gave to the pool. It's calculated directly with how many Sypool tokens you have compared to the total market cap, or like how much Bitcoin was allocated in total. So therefore you get a fair proportion of the rewards.
Cool. And will that be distributed, like how soon after that's mined? Would that be distributed to the the specific wallet?
Instead of distribution, we're looking at something more of a redemption model, where effectively you'll be able to log into the UI and just see how much of your return is possible at the current time. And then once you make a profit, then you call the smart contract and say, hey, can I have my stats rewards back? And the smart contract, if you're the right person, and it will check your balance and everything, and will basically say, yes, okay, and then transfer you the appropriate amount of tokens. As I said, well, in the PowerPoint, I said on a how long basis, it most likely won't be an issue. For example, yeah, so with the current amount of stats, Bitcoin being spent per block, we're looking at spending over 1 Bitcoin per day on mining. And if you have, I don't know, a decent amount, that's with the server we did like $543,000 worth of Bitcoin in total. That's like just over a week to have spent all $543,000 worth of that Bitcoin. So it most likely won't be a problem, and it would probably be quite quick. So yeah, so if there's a total of like about 500,000, we could see over a week and then see the profit in over a week. But there is it's not exactly a risk, because in the end you will still get the Bitcoin back, but there's a limit of how much Bitcoin you can spend per block and make a profit, and but there's not a limit to how much people can give to the pool. So if everyone decides to quote unquote attach the pool and basically allocate loads of Bitcoin to it and give loads of Bitcoin to it, it's not really an attack, because it's basically benefiting the pool. And the most thing that will happen is it might go back from like, I don't know, a few days to a few weeks.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense. Thanks, Asteria.
Well, I think that's pretty much it for today, guys, because we're almost time. But thank you so much for all the speakers today, Asteria, Philip, and Drew. And if you guys have any question, feel free to follow their group and their OS at the STX Discord. And we'll see you in the next Builder Call. Thanks for attending, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Louis.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Louis.